Okay, I wanted to go over a few things that we are covering on this topic of creating a prop for a game, namely Unity. So the prop here was a shack, and this is what you want to end up with. But turn off the edges here. So you want to come up with a shack that an object that looks fairly detailed, either with a neutral color as such as the models are going to be maybe like that, or it could have more of an elaborate color map as you can see here. Now these models are very low poly. If we go to the face count, there are only 16 faces, very, very low poly, so that's great. All right, so how do we do that? All right, so first of all, you want to create the low poly model. And so I have a model here. Here's what I'm calling wrong, and then you have correct. You've got the wrong one is, make sure that you, because we're not going to be sculpting this in Mudbox, we do not have to have square polygons on this at all. So you want to have the least amount of polys as possible. I do not have a bottom poly on it. I don't have a poly going around that top edge because it's not going to be seen from that view. I don't have these height segments or these vertical segments, unnecessary, so you got rid of them. Okay, so we went from this one, as you know, is 16 faces. This one right here is 63. You see what a major difference that makes. Okay, and they're not going to look any better. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add the checkered map on both, just so you can see that both actually worked, but it's just more polys than you needed on this. Okay. All right, so we got this, and now you want to create a high poly from the low poly, and this is the wrong way to do it. We've got something that has a lot of polys, but there's, I don't know actually even how this quite happened, but there's edges and stuff, but there's no chamfering. There's no, you don't want to have any, if these were pieces of wood, they certainly wouldn't be that tight. Whoa. They wouldn't be that tight against each other. So like, for example, if I selected that, that's like overlapping. That's really bad. I delete that. Let's just take, I don't even know, again, I'm not sure how that really happened, but what you want to have is, you know, model it as if like it really is, like you would really like model like a real model, like a little something out of popsicle sticks or something. Let's take a look at this shack. This is more what you want. I'm going to make it, whoa, sort of each little piece of wood has its nice little bevel. Let's turn on realistic so you can see the shading more. We don't need a bottom, so I just left that out. It's unnecessary. Oh, that's another thing. On this low poly, you don't have a bottom on the roof. If I was to go to this initial low poly, whoa, that's not what I want to do. And I deleted this bottom so we could look inside. There's even a polygon that's like on the underside. That's not good. All right. So there isn't anything like that. It's hollow. It's hollow on the low poly. Okay. So this is wrong. This is right. This is how you want it to look. You don't have to have that major gaps in there. As a matter of fact, it might be easier if it isn't, if there aren't those gaps, because then you have to deal with the opacity channel. But it's nice little bolts. You've got like these bolts, little things that you've duplicated around, and it's fun looking. Alrighty. Now, I've did a real loose texturing of it just to show that you could texture it in Max either completely or partially, which is, this is an example of a partial map, and then you could bake out a beginning of a diffuse map, or even completely do the complete diffuse map in here and bake it out in the end. let me show you how the high and the low poly should fit. Let me go to the front view. I'm going to just select these items and isolate them for a moment. And you see that the low poly actually has to be fit around it as if it was a glove. Fits around it like a glove. Look at how, now you could actually increase the low poly maybe by having some indentations on the top if the top was important, or if some of those details were important. The only actual three-dimensionality we have on this is the door where that sticks out, and the roof. Everything else is flat, but it's fitting it like a glove. Okay, totally as close as can be. Let me go to the front viewport. In fact, let's go to, now if you, let's go down to here, and it's better actually to scale the high poly to the low poly, because otherwise I'm going to have to adjust the UVs. But it's just easier for me to show you how you would adjust it as such. Okay, let's go to the side. And over here, this would be okay. And you see how that's getting cut off, that bolt. So I'm going to select, or I could just move the bolt in. That would be a solution. I've actually attached all these. They don't need to be attached, but I did. You can have a bunch of separate objects. Okay? Why were they attached? I don't know. They just were. Okay, those are popping out. That's not good. So either going to take the bolts and move them in. You know, either adjust the high or adjust the low. But be careful. I don't want to stick these into the wood, or that's going to break the reality, the illusion. So let me increase this. Let's see. Whoops, I'm in the wrong layer there. Have to be in the edit poly. Whoopsie, you see how that's being cut off? That's not good. That's how it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's go to the top view. And that's about it. Now I'm going to have to go into the Unwrap and make sure that everything is perfect there. Let me bring in the checkered map. Or I'll just turn it off. Yeah, actually I do have to bring in my, I'm going to pick my texture, and what I'm going to bring in is that checkered map that I use for everything. Have you guys used for everything? There we go. Okay, now what we're looking for, make sure that, let's make sure that this map is on there. Okay, and we want it to be square. We don't want it to be stretched. See how the stretching is? Okay, so actually the only really problem area is right here in the front. Okay, so I'll select this area. Okay, and let me break that. My Control B is not working, so I'll just have to use the break, and I'm going to use that right there, which is the quick peel. And now you see how it's square. It's square. All right, so I'm going to select all my pieces and make sure that they're uniform in size. And I want to expand that to fit the square as much as possible. Look around, make sure that there is no, now see how these are bigger? Because that's not good. It's not good. So they're not all the same size yet. going to select all these. Let's just hit that. Let's straighten it out. Now, the relax works oftentimes good, not always, and it does take a little longer. So let's just see if this is going to work for us or not. All right, so let's see here. It looks like, turn off the pink there. They are all now the even squares, but we've got this rotation thing going on here. So let me just straighten that up. And right here, this piece. Let's see if I can use the straighten. It doesn't work. Okay, so let me just use the rotate tool. Whoop. All right, we'll select everything and make it uniform and compact. Let's see how it's looking. They're all now the same size. This one is not quite straight, so let me just use that straighten up tool. That one's straight. That's straight. Okay, looks good now. All right, good enough. Okay, so now we're ready to bake. Now, you want your, everything is straight, the UVs are right. Let's go ahead and bake. So you select your low poly, and I've actually hidden everything. That makes it a little bit easier. And we're going to go into the bake. We'll hit the 0. Now, in order to bake an AO map, which I want to, we're going to have to change our render setup to be mental ray. Okay, very good. Let's choose a place for this for it to save to. You don't need to see where I'm saving it. Anyway, I'm going to put it into a place where it's going to be my working maps. That's what you want to do. So I'm saving it in my working files, okay, as you have been instructed as well in class. Say OK. Okay, so the low poly is in there, and we are going to be using a projection. So I'll pick. Now, if we had many parts, there would be many parts to choose, but I have actually attached all of them. Makes it a little bit easier, I guess, to select. Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to add that. Now, you notice that when I add it, look how the projection cage is added to the object, but it's all weird. So what I'm going to do over here is go to the cage rollout, and I'm going to hit reset. Okay. And now, what I have found through trial and error with the new 2016 is there's something very strange going on. First of all, let me just increase the amount just a little bit. Now, because we've got it so scaled so properly, so neatly, that we don't have to push or do anything like this. We just do this. But there's something weird that's going on in the option. In order to make it work, you have to make sure that use cage is off and that the offset is at 0. Now, by default, it won't be. It will be on. But if you have it on, it won't work. And these don't work either for our purposes. So just make sure that UCage is off. That's a big one. Let me just, right there, and that is in. Let me just show you where I got that, under the options. Okay, but projection enabled is on. Okay, now we're going to go down here, and we are going to choose the maps that we want. I'm actually going to delete these. Okay, so it's going to do a test. We're just going to do a test with the normal map. And we're going to make it very small, okay, because we don't want to waste our time. And I like to actually just, well, we can have it, we definitely want to do PNG. PNGs are smaller than Targas, and they're proving to be just as good. So in the working file, we'll have, it will be just shack. We want to have our name as short as possible, and this will be the normal. We want it to be 24-bit, it's fine. And we'll save it to a new material, standard blind. Oh, and over here we want to make sure that it goes to the bump channel. That's good. Okay, let's go ahead and render it. Now, do not be alarmed by what you see in here. This is not what you see. Now let's go ahead to our materials, and it should have created a material that has our map on there. I'm not sure where it did. So anyway, I'm going to create a new material right here. And over in the maps rollout, and I'm going to show you where it is anyway. So under the bumps channel, I'm going to click on the none bar, and I'm going to choose normal bump. And then in that none bar, that's where we choose the bitmap, and we'll choose the map that we just generated, we just created. Okay, so here it is, shack normal, and it looks good. Look at that. I'm going to say OK to this, and I'm going to hit the view image right here. That's again, you just click right there. If you hit view image, you can look at it, and that's exactly looking very fine indeed. So now that I know that it's going to work, we'll go here and we'll make it larger. Okay, so let's see. And I'm going to just change this size to, we want to have the map like twice as big as you think you're ever going to need it. So I'm going to choose 1024, and let's just render that one alone still by itself at this point. Again, do not be fooled, do not be concerned about what you see in here. The red is indicating that there's nothing there. Because we have large gaps, then yeah, that area should be red. Now this back one is turning out to be blacker than the others, and the front one is turning out to be quite white. I think that might have to do with the lighting. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Some maps need the lighting and some don't. Okay, let me unhide all just to get my lights back. And then I'm going to just select these and isolate. All right, so in the top, let's move our lights around. I'm just using Omni lights. We want to put a light all the way around. In the front viewport, there's a light on the top, on the left, the right, and in the front. The Omni is on the top and slightly in the front, so that should be fine. All right. Let's look at that again. We'll select the low poly, and let's now bake again. Okay, so it's done. I'm going to go over into my materials, and hit the M. And here is where I had the material, and it should reload, update automatically. Let's take a look at it. And whoa, that looks really good. That's looking fine. So let's now go ahead and apply it to our low poly. And I'm going to just isolate this. Well, let's see. Let me just hide. I'm going to hide the high poly. Now, in order to see it in the viewport, you don't have to. I'm going to actually hit the under it. Oh, make sure that you are rendering a small one. It doesn't have to be mental ray. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I thought I applied the map. There we go. Now you can get a little test view of what it looks like by clicking with your, let me open up the material map navigator. By clicking, if you're at the level where the map is and you click on this button, it will appear. But that gives you an idea if it look like, even though it's not, my F9 is a shortcut in my Camtasia, so I can't use the F9. So let me just hit the render button. And that's pretty much what you're going to get. But really what you're going to see is this. Let's make it show up in our viewport. So you don't have to have it show up in your viewport for it to work, but let me show you how that's done. You go into the reference under the viewport, where is it? Actually gamma, and you turn off the gamma. Okay, and then you go into, you want to make sure you're in a perspective or camera viewport. Now we're going to go to the realistic, and we want to go to materials, and we'll say realistic materials with maps. And there you go. It's working. What's very cool about a normal map is that, all right, so what's really cool about a normal map is that when I move around this OmniLight, that you will see the lighting will change. Wait a minute. You will see the lighting will shift. But it's not working because I have to go in here under the lighting and make it illuminate with scene lights. There we go. So now when I move it around, you can kind of see it working. Now I can go over here and I can increase the bump. And look at that. It totally is making an impact. I brought that too high. So now when I move that around, you can see it's working. There's some adjustments I'm going to have to make the map to the map on the roof. So heck, let's make that right now, shall we? All right, I'm going to go into the Unwrap. This is a very important stage for you to do. Go ahead and reset the map to that normal map that we've just generated. Normal bump. Now, the areas that are troublesome are on, if we look over here, now we're seeing nothing. Isn't that interesting? Oh, let me make it show up in the viewport. Maybe turn off lights right now. There. So that is a problem, you see, that little edge. Okay, so we'll fix that. I'm going to go ahead and find the polygon that makes up that edge, which is right there. And I can either bring that down right like that, adjust it as so, and if it's still looking awful, which it is, there. That's about, well, let me see what I can do. Let me bring that over to, like, maybe over here. I think that will look better. We'll go ahead and scale that. Non-uniform scale. Ah. Oh, dear. Dear me. It's getting worse. Okay. It's like too small to scale. Fine. I will just grab it like this. Okay. Move it back somewhere where I think Okay. It's kind of a funny, it's a low poly model. What can we do? Let's go to this shape right here and adjust that. This is for the other side. And so anyway, that's what you're going to have to do for those certain parts. It's looking pretty ugly. Actually, I kind of like it because it looks like, you know, dripping shack stuff. So I'm going to leave it just because it's going to be very small and it kind of looks like it's grody, like it's aged. So I'm going to keep that. The front is a problem. So let's fix that. I'm not liking this side at all. So if I select this, let me break this. And I'm going to use like over here. No, not there. Like this down here. There, much better. You see that? Much better. Also, don't look at your model any closer, much closer than it's ever going to be seen. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting your time fixing things that will never be seen. Okay? I'm liking it. Let's hold that. Okay. Now, let's go back into the baking, and now we can bake the other maps. So what you want to do is, where are we? Whoops. Okay. We want to bake the normal. Oh, I have to change this back to mental ray so that I can bake an ambient occlusion. That's very important. Ambient occlusion. Now, if you have done something, let me unhide. I'll just leave it like that for right now. So we've got an ambient occlusion, we've got a normal. Now we've already done our normal, so let me just delete that. And the ambient occlusion, we want to make sure that that is 1024, and we really don't care where it goes because we just want to actually, we're just going to bake this to output source. It's going to just go right into the folder. Okay, so that's good. Let's render that. Now that looks scary, doesn't it? But before I judge, I want to make sure I look at the final to see if that is just not true. I have Photoshop open, and let me just open up that map. What do we name it as? Oops. Not looking good at all. All right, so let's go back to Max and see what happened. In here, make sure that in the options, use cages off, okay. The lights are around it. What happened? Let's see, where's my map? Okay, this is the map that's developing. Let's just save this as our shack map. And I'm going to put just a regular grayscale on. Oh, gee, maybe because I didn't unhide the high poly. There you go. All right, let's try it again. Oops, 0. All right, let's render it now. And lo and behold, it looks like it's going to work. Again, don't judge it from what you see in here because it's not going to be the same. Okay, so here's our rendered out ambient occlusion map. And so this is something actually I rendered out earlier. And so let me show you how this is assembled in Photoshop. All right. So don't look at these two maps at the bottom. We're not dealing with those right now. These right here. What we have here, I put my normal map in here. Doesn't have to be in there, but we've got, I've created a folder, and in here I have the ambient occlusion map. And I've actually combined more than one. I had to do some adjustment to make them look equally shaded. But I have one map or two maps depending on how much ambient I want. I also wanted to add some sort of create some bolt things. I added a different layer, and I've used the bevel and the drop shadow, but they're black. I actually want to invert the color because that's going to look better for an ambient occlusion. Actually, this would be great for a diffuse map. I could actually clone this over. I'm sorry, what am I thinking? Well, let's see what it looks like if we invert it. All right, I'm going to try it like that. Okay, so all I've done is I've created a layer of color. That's all it is. And I've chosen sort of a brownish color. And I made it a multiply. That's all I did. Okay? And what you've done here is you kind of creating a look of something that's somewhat colored, right? That's a good start. I just want you to show you how much you can do with just an ambient occlusion. So I save this out, and you want to export it, always save for web, and you save them as PNGs. Do not check transparency. In the end, we're going to make them, oh, it's not 1024 by 1024. In the end, you're going to want to make the map 512 by 512. So anyway, back in Max. Okay, so here is the material. I'll just create it as, here it is right here. We've got, whoa, is this it? Yeah, shack map. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get a diffuse bitmap and choose our ambient occlusion map that we've created, the shack 2, which is just simply color. It's right here too. Let me get rid of that. Okay, and we'll apply it. And lo and behold, whoops, what's going on there? All right, anyway, you see how it's coming. Oh, I know why, because this map that I'm doing this demo on is actually not the same one that I did the map for. Let me go ahead and undo that. And I'm going to unhide all. And this is actually it right here. As you can see, if I apply, you see, oh, but there's something weird. Anyway, let's see what we have here. This is the map. I'll save this out. I'll name it as Shack 3. Okay. Bring in Shack 3 and apply it. And it has a very funny shadow on it. Let's see, maybe there's something, let's isolate it for a moment. Oh, I know. Isolate. Oh, it's just a funny reflection from something. It could be, seems to be something in one of the maps. I think it might be the normal. Let's just turn the bump map off for a minute. And it is. It's in the bump map. Okay, so that's looking very good. And now let's go ahead and get our proper bump map, because this was one I was playing with another one. So it is, the final one is here. It's just a normal map that was made for this. I actually adjusted the UVs on this one a little different. So you can see now it's looking good. As a matter of fact, if you want to test it, what we can do is we can turn off the diffuse and look at the normal, and apply it to that. Let's look in the UVs here. Okay, so it's fitting along just fine. If we render it, it should show. Oh, I know. Now that we've finished baking out our AO map, let's go ahead and put this render setup back to Scanline. Okay, and we also want to make sure our lighting, illuminate with scene lights, is on. That's what's going to make the normal map show up in the viewport. Again, it's not an essential. We also want to make sure our materials, realistic materials with maps, is on. I had the maps off. That's why they didn't show. Okay, show up for us. What I think is going on here, sometimes when you switch from mental ray, when you switch from mental ray to Scanline back and forth, sometimes it gets messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset and open up the file again. Or you can open it up into a new scene, and it's just fine now. Don't you love it? Okay, so that's what you're going to get. We'll go to look at that map. So you've got your just an AO with a basic color. Now, if you wanted to go a little extra mile and you add some additional details to your wood pieces, you can do it in a number of ways. One is you can see that I started to create a very rough version. This is my map. I used just this wood type material that's really crude, and you can't really ever make it look that real. You can play with the settings and adjust it so as like that. I actually have a multi-sub object where on the other side it has the metal. If I made this, for example, the metal, that would be 2, ID 2. Okay, and then what you do is you bake out. When you bake it, you would bake this, you would put this in here. So this would be, this material would go onto the map that you bake, the high poly you would bake. You see? Okay. And then when you bake, where are we? Just hit the 0. And you're going to bake a diffuse map. You could even bake it a complete map. You could try that as well. And that will bake out a map that looks like this. Let's look at that closer. Okay, not that pretty, but with some adjusting, as I've done here. I used an oil paint filter. Let's turn off these others. Okay, the big deal is adding the AO onto it. You add your bolts. Now I'm going to invert it for my diffuse map. Make them dark. And when I add that, you see it adds a color. I think I'm going to put this, make this a solid, and bring this down here. Or bring it up here and play with the types of filters. That's multiply, I like that. Different filters. You can just mess with it. And that can get you going. Another really valuable and probably even a better way, I don't know, it depends the kind of effect you're going for, but is to actually get real images of wood. I'm going to turn that down. I like, actually, in our game, we're going for something more cartoony, so this is appropriate. But you could go to the internet and get actual images of wood and just fit them in and paint wood. All right, I was going to type in wood texture. Or you can go photograph your own wood. When you're dealing with big time games, you don't necessarily want to use the stuff that you can so easily get on the internet. Just make sure that it's realistic size. Okay, it's really important. Alrighty, and the final result of that one is this. And there you go. So I hope that that helps explain the process of what you are to do to create a simple object that has a normal and a diffuse map that has an AO map blended with the diffuse. Then when you bake this out, when you export it, the selected out as, we'll say shack here. When you export it out as an FBX with embedded media, those maps will come through and they will show up when you open it up into Unity. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope to see some great models from you.